Architectural Builders Supply is pleased to present you with this recording of the technical question that is listed in the title of this video.
This call may be monitored and recorded for quality assurance.
Know anything about it?
I hope.
Okay.
I may not.
It's
I might know a lot.
It's called a push touch latch. It's non-magnetic, zinc plated. It's kind of this metal looking rectangular box.
What's the part number?
I've got a part number. Let's see, the pro value, here it is. F is in Foxtrot, R is in Romeo, P is in Papa, B is in Bravo, 942, Z is in Zulu, P is in Papa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Are you familiar with it?
Reasonably, yes, sir.
Okay. Would it work? My goal is to hold a drop shelf that weighs probably 40 pounds. And I'm thinking of putting one of these on each side of it. It's like a storage area underneath like a 50-inch shelf. And so I guess the question is, would this work in a vertical application? So when I lift up the shelf, it locks into place, and then my guess is until I push up on it again, it should hold it in place.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's going to be very little force, pulling on that. I would prefer to use something a bit more robust, like an Ives CL11.
I looked at that, and it seemed to have mixed reviews.
Well, what would be a negative review of the CL11?
People said it was easily broke.
Yeah, I've been familiar with those for 3 decades. I've not had anyone return it to me saying, "Take this back. It's broken the first." I've never experienced that. The only time that I have trouble with all touch latches is when it's installed incorrectly.
That was one of the things. People said that Ives product was very difficult to align exactly right, and it had to be aligned exactly right. And
yeah, there's one commandment or must with that thing, and with all touch latches, in fact, you have to observe that minimum distance. The issue that I see with 2 latches is any warp or twist at all could prove to be tricky to get it to operate, because there's not a lot of play on these. When you push it into its max.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't need 2 latches if one's going to reasonably hold 25 pounds or so. Then I don't need 2.
Yeah, I would say that you're not putting anywhere near that sort of load on it at all. And I would expect that it would work, in fact.
Okay. Now there's the Ives 11 and the Ives 12, right? And I understand that the 11 is less weight.
That's
force.
A smaller unit.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, do you sell that one too?
Oh, of course.
You do? Okay. Yeah. How much are those?
A CL12 that used to be called the BB Large is what we used to call it. A CL12. That thing is about $30. The CL11 is probably going to be about 25 plus or minus.
I'm looking at Ives on your thing. So that's interesting. So I thought the first product I asked you about would actually hold it more weight, because it seems like it locks in there, but no. You think the Ives hold more weight? It'd be more secure.
I don't think your latch is going to hold any weight. I think the hinge will hold the weight, and the latch is just going to keep it in the vertical position. I think a smaller one would certainly work.
Well, I think the latch is holding half the weight. I mean, it's a horizontal shelf, and I use cup hinges, like cabinet hinges on the inside next to the wall, and the latch is what's holding the other side of the shelf up. So whatever the weight is on there, it's holding half of it.
So the closed position is horizontal?
Yes. So this is not for a cabinet like a kitchen cabinet. This is for a compartment underneath a shelf.
You're going to push up on it and it'll drop down. I understand.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd be prepared for some experimentation. These touch latches, I don't have any experience with them holding a lot of the load like that. I don't really think you're going to break an Ives product like that because I've taken them apart. I mean, there's a plastic body to it, but the pieces that are going to make contact with each other, they're not plastic. But having said that, do you have? Let me think here now. Do you have adequate room on the top jamb section? I mean, what's the height of that piece? I would think it'd have to be a couple of inches for the Ives.
So from the compartment depth is about 3.5 inches, maybe 3 3/4.
Yeah. So either one of them would work. I would be. I don't know that I'd be real confident in the $5 Pro Value thing holding all that weight, or at least over time. What's the application? This is a drop-down cabinet in what? Is like a workroom or something?
Do you have a cell phone number? I can just send you a little video.
My email. You can upload it to YouTube or something and then send me that.
I have to figure out how to do that. What email address?
It's under Contact Us in the upper right-hand corner of the site.
Okay.
It's the sales email that's there, and my name is Richard.
Richard, okay, that's my name. To the sales email? Okay.
Yes, sir.
I probably can just attach it as a file to the email, I assume.
Probably not. It would have to probably be a 2-second video before it got too large. You could toss it to your Google Drive or something like that, and then you can share it publicly.
Okay. I'll try to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, if you have a Gmail account, you can upload it to YouTube and then send me the link.
Okay. All right. I'll try to figure out a way to do that.
Yeah.
And so then I'll take a look at it, and then maybe we can discuss it.
I look forward to that, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video.
Okay, dokie. Aha! That's a neat place to hide the popcorn.
Well, right now that's about all it can hold. That's reliable.
Luckily, they make them pretty light nowadays. The Germans are producing a lot of nice things that are pretty light. So let's take a looky. Yeah, so no one has ever asked, is that a magnet on the top of the mantle? It is, isn't it?
Yeah, so I use
I've
baby locks
got those
right
latches.
now to hold it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I'm
I mean,
familiar with
they're
those.
fine enough for keeping it closed, but that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been asked to put touch latches in a lot of different orientations. You know, the standard orientation where it's used way beyond what it was designed for. I've had people ask me if they could use it in a drawer application, like your drawer sliding out at you. Apparently that's worked. This is the short version is I wouldn't try anything less than a CL12. I would try one, and I would pneumatic, whatever the proper term is, your pneumatic shocks, do they make those in differing rates?
They do. That one is a N60, if that means anything to you. And in fact, and those things are cheap. They're like $7 each. I was a little unhappy with how fast it comes down, so I'm going to put the strongest one I can find, which is like an 80 strength, and replace those. But the problem is they can't be very long.
Yeah, very
so
short
I was going to replace those. Yeah, I mean, any, I don't know if 20 more, whatever scale that is going to make a difference, but I figured I might as well try for $7.
Yeah, or put one and leave, just mix them. I've never tried this. I don't know anyone who has. I would personally go with a CL12, and I would, I would expect it to work, because the reason I say that is because I've had people install that CL12 where they didn't observe the golden rule about the margin. And from what I've learned is people have had to pull on their bookcase or their door with substantial force to break it, to physically get the hardware to break. And one or two times the people told me the screws came out before the latch broke. So based on that water cooler talk, I think it'll handle the weight of this, which you said it's 40 pounds. Okay, there you go. I mean, it's plus it's not 40.
It's half of that, or something about half, depending on how the load is distributed.
Exactly. What the depth is.
Honestly, 40 was just a shot. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm going to put in there or what could potentially be in there someday or anything, so I was just totally guessing on the weight.
Yeah. Yeah. My opinion is I think a CL12 would work based on the fact that I'm aware of how robust it is and what people have told me it takes to get them open when it's not working the way it's designed.
So I did measure it. It's 3.5, which if I thought about it, I knew, because when I built it, the back support was 3.5 inches, which is the top to the bottom interior dimension. Is that big enough for a CL12?
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because that body is just off the top of my head, 1.5 inches at the most.
Oh, okay.
Meaning when you add the strike allowance to it, you won't be approaching your maximum.
Mm-hmm. Well, two questions. So you said you didn't think that 2 would work. Is it too difficult to get them to be aligned?
I don't think it'd be a matter of alignment. I don't know that A, it would be required, and B, that drop leaf has to. It doesn't appear that there would be any flex at all in it. But because you have to have that dimension that you will require when you, at the beginning of your video, when you take your thumb and you push it up, that margin has to be observed. Introducing 2 into
and what's that minimum? What's that minimum margin? Minimum standoff between the two?
Yeah. Let's look.
Just gotta make sure
Installation instructions. So they want 3/16. So
that's not much.
Yeah, it does appear as if your drop leaf, right in that range. Just eyeballing it. And I think I would do 1, and then I would add a second.
Well, the thing is, if I go with 2, I would do it in 2 corners. If I go with 1, it would have to be centered, I assume.
I've been thinking about how you might want to use it. I would personally be exerting the force where the latch was installed. If you think, operating it in the center of the mantle is going to be what you would end up doing, I would put 1 there.
Okay. All right. And when it's closed, how much inward force, how much inward distance do you have to push it to get it to release?
I would say that would be
3/16?
3/16 maximum. It couldn't be more than that.
Okay.
You know, it
So
might
there's not
take
a whole lot of travel required.
not a lot at all. No, sir. You know, it might take 0.13 inch to actually get it to activate. Before you put it in, you could disassemble it and study it. There's just, I think, one screw, and there's only 2 parts inside of it, if I recall. There's just not much to it. Ingenious little doodad, though.
Good. All right. Should I order it through you or order it online?
Definitely on the phone with us. I've got them in stock. They'll leave immediately. I'm going to transfer you over to order entry. They are going to know what you want by the time you get over there. And would you actually, I'm just going to enter the order because I can see that they're all on the phone. I would love if you would report back. Just let me know, because someday someone like you is going to use it in some other way, and I would like to relate to them what your findings were. So
yeah, I mean, I can
tell
you, assuming it holds it. I don't know how I would test it.
Well, yeah, it worked. It didn't break. You know, success. You know, that sort of thing. You know, and because it's concealed, you wouldn't see the screws if you thought that a second was really necessary. You know, a little bit of putty, that kind of thing. I don't think it would be a problem. But I can see the way that you build things with those 4 hinges back there. So
yeah,
if you're going to order a second one, just do it now.
Yeah. I'll order 2, in fact.
Okay.
Because I have a gut feeling that I won't be happy with it unless I use 2.
Yeah, I'm right. You can always mail it back to me too. Okay, so what is your address?
Yeah, if there's anything about this shelf, it's definitely over-engineered. Or overbuilt, I should say.
Well, it'll last.
4 lag bolts holding the back, so I was concerned about how I was going to mount it. But,
well, you always said you were going to sit on it or stand on it.
You know what? I've got to go find my credit card. I'll be right back. Hold on just a second.
Sure. Take your time.
Okay.
If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Now, in the final component that is about to follow in terms of the conversation, here's what the client did. And unfortunately, the client's images and very short video have gone away, but I'm going to describe his application. Think of a mantle. Think of a mantle in a modern house. 6 foot wide, maybe 5 foot wide, flat top, maybe 6 inches deep, and we'll have basically underneath the horizontal top a profile of what would be crown molding underneath it with returns back to the wall. Looks very nice. It's a mantle. Go over your fireplace, you put pictures there, whatever. What this client did was, though, is he took the flat part of the mantle, that structure, added some small return wood to the face and the sides, and then underneath basically built an L-shaped feature to it that was hinged on the back. So the bottom of his mantle, so here's the front of the mantle, here's the flat part, here's the small face, and his mantle would literally rotate down like this. And what the client did was he built this mantle, had hinges on the back side, so that the bottom of the mantle drops out, and he was looking for a way to keep it up and secured. A touch latch is what he was thinking. As you're about to hear, the CL12 worked exactly as we had hoped it would work. He probably would have used the CL11, as you'll discover, because the amount of force he has to push on it to get it to come up and then release is a little higher than he would like, and the CL11 has a lower force required to activate it. And in the mantle, the client is able to put things in there, not very much stuff, but perhaps stuff that you'd want to keep out of sight. But there, whatever you might want that for, you might have an application where I believe this client, and while it wasn't discussed, might be using it for home protection. Having something quite concealed there, ready to go. Whatever that might be, you might have a need to be extremely neat and organized, and you're going to put your remote controls underneath there. That could be a neat place to put those. Whatever the case might be, whatever you might be storing there. But what's really amazing about it is the ingenuity that the client came up with to utilize that otherwise dumb space, that static, empty sort of potential space. And in my opinion, it's a brilliant concept that I'm sure many other people would very much like to be able to see that for whatever the reason, that you might want to have things hidden but within an arm's reach. Let's go on to the next part of the conversation.
Yeah. So it worked well. It's a little stronger probably than is ideal. Like I really got to pull up on it to get it to click, and then I really got to pull up on it harder, of course, to free it. But that's okay. I mean, if that's the trade-off for having a strong latch, then I understand. Maybe the 11 or the 12 would have been better. I'm not sure if they have the same strength for being able to pull apart. But on the test that I did, I really yanked on that thing and I couldn't get it to release. So I definitely have confidence that there's no weight that's going to pull it off.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that with what I've been told about people installing it incorrectly and really having to crowbar the door open. Did you install it on one end or in the center?
No, I did the center because the shelf is very rigid. I mean, it's made of 3/4 inch plywood, and so it wasn't going to bend. So I decided to go with the one in the center. And when it's locked, unless you knew that moved, I mean, there is absolutely, you really got to pull up on it to get any movement out of it now. So it's not like you could discover that the whole shelf moves unless you knew it.
Yeah, no one's
because nobody would ever pull on something that they don't know does that.
Yeah, that is definitely Bruce Wayne stuff, what you've done.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing, so I watched your video, both the corrected one and the original, and I was confident that I knew how to attach the little jig, whatever it's called. And so I did that, and I marked the holes, and then I mounted it, and it was about maybe a little more than 1/8 of an inch off. And I think the reason is when this shelf closes, and I don't know mechanically why it does this, as the bottom comes up, and before it actually connects, the wood meets the top, I think it slightly comes in a little bit due to the nature of the hinges, just a tiny bit. I'm not sure why, but I noticed that I had to adjust the cup hinges because it was catching the lip. There's about a 3/4 inch lip of wood that covers up the seam, and it was catching that, and it shouldn't have, and so I had to adjust the cup hinge, and I noticed that final inch of closure, there's a slight vertical movement of the shelf. And I think that was kind of messing up that final point where the latch was about to touch the catch, and then there was a slight aft movement, which causes it to be not aligned. So it took me a little while to figure out how to get that aligned. And fortunately, although I tried moving once the top shelf, I don't want to make too many holes because then it would become not as strong with the holes being reused and drilled next to each other. I decided to move the latch with a shim. Mm-hmm. And it took me a little trial and error and using toothpaste on it to see exactly where it was catching. Mm-hmm. A little dab of toothpaste on it to see where it was being blocked by by the latch. But finally I got it right, and it's perfect now.
Yeah, old timers would use lipstick, is what they said. You wonder why I've got lipstick in my toolbox? The old timer said. Well, that's great.
If I thought about lipstick, it might have been easier to say.
Well, yeah, and it's yeah. I've known a couple of really good old time carpenters. I mean, these guys were just, these are the guys that you'd want to build your stairs, caliber, and the stuff that you're able to learn from a guy like that. So that's great. I really am glad that you have been able to make this work. So many other people could, of course, never make such a thing work. So it's not a testament to the concealed latch. It's a testament to your skill. And yeah, there you go. If there's any other Bruce Wayne stuff you're going to dream up, let me know. Hidden bookcases and stuff like that, and safe rooms, and I'd like to be part of it. And I can whip out AutoCAD.
I wish I had the time for that, but I'm not very good at woodworking, so I literally built every part of that shelf 3 times. Thank God I don't do crown molding in a house.
Yeah, well, right. Lots of putty. Okay. Well, thanks for taking the time to take my call. I have emailed you where to send that puppy back, the one that you didn't need, and okay. I hope it gives you many years.
Richard, there's one other thing that I think is incorrect in your first video.
Mm-hmm.
Is, if you got a second.
Oh yeah.
In your first video, I think I listened to it a couple of times, and I think what you're saying in the first video is to put the instead of putting your little jig thing, screwing it onto the latch, is to remove the latch, put it where the holes are, and then close it without the latch there, which would be quarter of an inch off if you were to do that.
The thickness of the latch.
And I think that's what you're saying in the first video, is to literally remove the latch and just put that little thing directly onto where you would put the latch.
Yeah, and that could be. I haven't watched that video, and when I look at the installation instructions from the Glenn Johnson and Ives versions, one of the 2 documents, and I think it's the Ives version, literally says the words, remove the latch, put the piece of stamped metal there, and then mark your locations. And
yeah, that wouldn't work.
Yeah, and when you line the parts up in your hand, you then realize that can't be right. It's not going to work. The strike's going to be too far over, and in fact, the door probably won't close at all with that latch there. So it has to be on top of the body itself. But yes,
unless you were to perhaps reverse the catch, and I didn't think of that, because maybe if the holes were to, you switch it the opposite way where you would normally put it. But I did not have the Ives instructions. I had the other company's instructions.
I went through flipping it over, and it was closer, but it was still obviously incorrect, because that part is not symmetrical when you look at it and you flip it end for end like that. So yeah, it's that piece of hardware has been around for so many decades, and I think the factory just doesn't get people that call and say, hey, I put that on the way I thought it was right, and it's not right. So it's still the same document from 15 years ago, I think.
So just curious, if I had used an 11 instead of the one you sent me, the 19, I think it was.
The 12.
12. Would it be as strong but yet easier to close and open?
It has a lower force. It has a lower force required. And my opinion is that it would be equally as strong in your application. Meaning, as we had said earlier, to really pull that apart, you have to thoroughly destroy the internal components. And I don't think what you'll end up putting in your area is going to cause that sort of damage when people have to force it open severely. If you want, send back the 12. I'll send you the 11, refund you the difference, and if you really want to go there.
I'm okay with it right now. It's okay. I mean, I presume that they're the exact same dimensions, right?
No, they're not. There would be new holes you'd have to drill.
Yeah, that's too much. Way too much effort. But I appreciate it. No, I'll send you back the one I didn't use, but I'll be perfectly happy with this one.
I promise you that for the rest of my career, I will let people know anonymously about you, the way you've employed the hardware, and even the manufacturer. I've got a great relationship with the guys over at Allegiant, Ives, and Schlage, and LCN, and I'm being quite genuine. They love to hear these stories. These are guys that live and breathe it, and they love to hear this stuff. So thank you for participating. I really appreciate it.
Sure. Absolutely. I enjoyed it. Thank you. I'm glad I stumbled across you.
I look forward to earning that. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Architectural Builders Supply hopes you have enjoyed this program. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.